I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. This is our first study session of the month of September. So, Jeremy, do you have anything?
I sent Augie the report, you should have it. We had 87 calls, I think, for last month, so another busy month, so. Just wrapped up Christmas days this weekend. So, things been going smooth, so. Any questions, complaints, comments?
Hey Jeremy, when did you send that to me?
The first dish,
I didn't see it, but I'll look.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll resend it to you.
okay. And I'll make sure they get it Wednesday morning.
Perfect.
Okay.
Any questions of Jeremy? You're next, I guess. Adam? Sam?
Well, you guys have your August report in front of you. We finished the month with 269 in ones. If you had in our transfers, it was almost 270, averaged out to about 10 a day. So pretty busy month altogether. The times looked better than average. Dispatch and route, 0.8 minutes. Then our scene times all look good. Our back in service times were better than average. So I'm pretty happy with all the times for the month. Our quality indicators were above 80. Like I said, my 12-week time, I'm still looking for 100%, but there are some of those that are just out of our control. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how the month went, minus a couple minor issues we dealt with in-house. But any questions for me?
The contract is up in 25 or 24.
24.
So we got less than a year to go.
So June 1st to 24, the new contract takes effect.
So we need to notify them that we're going to bid them.
Yeah. Say that again, Jeff.
We need to notify them, but we need to get the contract out and dust it off. We need to, if you could resend that out to us, I'd appreciate it, Augie. Probably have a committee look at it, see if we need, what we need to do, whether we need to notify them. I think you've got a 30-day clause if we're gonna rebid it, or 60, something in there.
I think it's 90, but close.
Okay, well, that's fine,
I would
that's
have to
fine.
look, I would have to look at it again to see what the.
That's fine, I'm just being, we need to do what we need to do, so.
Yeah, and we don't wanna wait till the last minute.
No.
We need to start working on it and kinda let them know.
Because that's just 9 months or 8 months away.
Right, yeah.
And if we're looking at it, some deadlines that are 30, so you can take, so we're 6 months away, so. However, we're gonna approach it. That'll be interesting to see how we're gonna do that with the levy, if they should happen to. We need to figure that one out. Because see, we won't have any money in the levy next June,
Right,
so we need to,
cause we'll be doing that now,
right,
or this fall.
that's interesting. So we need to figure that all out here in the next 30 days or so. You guys, if somebody should bid, or all of you bid and want, whoever's bidding, and want to do it for so much a month, we have to have the money to pay you,
Correct.
so.
Hopefully it'll be zero again.
Huh?
Hopefully it'll be zero again like last time.
Who would count on
Anyway,
If you can get that to us and we can take a look at it and so we can start working
because we
on
gotta pass the levy in November,
it. Yeah,
so
So can you pass the levy?
we could actually bid it down for next year. It's just a thought.
might be cut it close, but,
Oh, I'm just,
yeah.
well, at any rate, if you could get that to us, maybe have it hand out on Wednesday, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I interrupted does anybody have any questions of them?
Your calls, I didn't catch that at first. There's 207 and then you had something else.
So 206 for the 911s, but then if you add in our emergent, non-emergent transfers.
Transfers,
So
okay.
that bumps up to 266,
10, about 10 a day.
average out about 10 a day. Our busiest day, I think, was 18, so.
Anybody else?
That's why you need your 3 or 4 ambulances and different crews, all your crews. I assume you got all of them staffed.
We have
Normally
not-
you have 3 or 4 a
We
day.
have 3 staff today, and we have not dropped below that at any point.
Okay, Sam, did you have anything to add?
No.
Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. You want to come up here, please? Dina's gonna talk to us about an item, well, a couple items, but the first one is about some pop-outs that we might wanna look
Right.
at that are on the agenda, so I'll let you go.
It's just new legislation specifically written for Cook County because there's 20-some pages for counties with population over 3 million. So it doesn't even apply to us till page 25, and it says you may or may not opt out for those who have less than 3 million. It's an affordable housing property tax incentive program. A lot of counties are choosing to opt out. If you opt out, you have the right to opt back in if for any reason you decide maybe we should. But it's a very complex formula to decide whether they qualify. Then you have to follow, they have to have, there's 2 options. One, they have to have 15% of their units with rents below market. They get a reduction for 10 years. They can extend that twice for a full reduction of 30 years. You have to monitor how many apartments are at low income, very low income, extremely low income. It's a very complex thing to do. The second option is 20% of the units have to have these particular groups of apartments lower than a certain income. Then it prorates. It's 80% from years 3 to 5, and then from years 6 to 8 it goes to 60%. It's almost like an abatement. But then every year you're monitoring to make sure that they have met all those specific rental requirements or these low income requirements. Most counties are starting to opt out. Simply, they don't have the people to monitor that nor the expertise. There's just no way to monitor. It's just getting us in a situation where we don't have to abide by law and do all of this.
Well, we're abiding by law because we're opting out.
If you choose to opt out. We just, like I said, most of them are opting out. One, it was written for Cook County, very, like I said, 20-some pages that begins talking about counties with over 3 million inhabitants. So it was designed for that. Offices don't have the manpower. There are already options for these types of housing to get a reduced assessed value. There's the Chapter 42 housing and the 515. We have those now. A state appraiser every year submits an appraisal to me. For most of them, there are a few who don't. They submit their expense worksheet, which I struggle through as best I can, figuring out what income is allowable, what expenses are allowable, trying to figure out what their income-based value is. So they have options. We're not saying you can't be low-income housing and get a reduced assessment. There are options. This is just a way for them to get this. They have to submit a written statement. There are no formal documents that they have to submit. They have to have a written statement saying, I have this many apartments that I've rented at this level, this many at this level, this many at this level, and then we monitor that from anywhere from 10 to 30 years. Again, just don't have staff time to monitor something like that. So again, you have the option to opt out of this, and if for any reason you feel like, maybe we made a mistake, we should use this program, you can opt back in.
Is that clear as mud? In
I-
other words,
yeah.
it's a tool for landlords if they're offering reduced housing to benefit, maybe they're getting federal funding or whatever, to get a reduced assessment. But there's already other programs that do that, and if we don't opt out, then we're gonna have to monitor those.
Have to. We have 15 counties that have currently opted out. In our direct area, Douglas, Coles, Moultrie, Crawford, and Marion in our direct area. Then there's
See,
counties on
that's-
the west side and the northwest part of the state. Other counties are in the process of opting out. It's simply, it just doesn't apply to us. I have already written, I've mimicked another county's resolution. Augie has a copy of that. If you should choose to opt out, it's ready to go for the meeting on Wednesday.
Any questions, because it is on the agenda? Well, if you think of any, then call her and ask her, or we can discuss it further on Wednesday morning if that suits you. Okay.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about briefly, or not even briefly, about e-record?
Yep. We're pleading with Augie's office, it's ultimately his decision, but there is a process called e-recording. Currently, we have a large number, I made a count somewhere, it was over 100 parcels that are sitting in a pile, in a trouble pile in our office because we can't process them. Just for an easy example, I sell Jeff the north half of 2 lots. Well, I own the whole lot. So we called the attorney and said, wait, you only conveyed the north half of these lots. What about the south half? Oh, sorry, we meant to convey the whole lot. So we have to sit, wait for the attorney to redraw a deed correctly. Then he has to re-record, which is more cost to him. It's his error, so he has to re-record. We wait for that. Some of these have been sitting for months. We have a few that have been there for years. Oh, I keep forgetting to do that. I'll do that. There is e-recording. Again, this is something that Augie would have to install. But if they e-record, they record the deed with Augie's office. It can be shot over to us to look for those types of mistakes. We send it back to his office. They reject it back to the attorney who makes the correction, sends it back. That way it can be done immediately without extra cost. We're not waiting on the attorney, not that we wouldn't anyway, but if it's shot immediately back to them, they can fix it.
Have you had any discussions with any of the attorneys?
Yes, there are some and again, e-recording doesn't make it mandatory. I've talked a lot with Clark County. She has e-recording, but she still gets maybe 2-3 paper copies a month. There are some older attorneys that still want to bring their hard copy deed into the office and have it stamped, and that's fine. It doesn't make it unacceptable, just makes it easier in a digital world. They send the deed through digitally, we look it over.
But have you talked to any of our attorneys here?
Yes, yes, some are for, some are still old school. I just want them to keep doing what I've always done. So the majority of them have come to these MIDEC trainings where they can do stuff digitally. It just doesn't, right now, they can file it digitally, we just can't reject it back. You have to have e-recording to do that. So it's just something we wanted to throw out there. We would love to have, it's a burden on Augie. They're the ones that would have to learn all of that, so.
So it doesn't fix anything or solve anything or change the
Other than
the
we're,
process.
it makes the process a little easier, a little quicker. Attorneys sometimes drag their feet. Again, if they have to rewrite a corrective deed, it's more cost to them. They have to pay the now $78 fee to re-record a corrective deed, whereas we could say, this has a problem, you didn't include the whole lots, we reject it back to them, who rejects it to the attorney. They can retype or whatever they do, send it back to Augie, send it back to us, yep, we're good.
There's also a box that they neglect to check, that which makes us look to the state, explain that.
Right, there are things, well, we just had one where the house was torn down just this summer. The Department of Revenue looks at the current sale and our previous year assessed value. So when they look at assessed value, say at $20,000, but it just sold for $5,000, that's because the house was torn down. There is boxes on these documents that get recorded with the deed and go to the state. And there's a box that clearly says structure demolished after January 1 of taxing year. That tells them, oh, this sale isn't right because something changed on this property. If that's not checked, the department sees it, you got assessed at 20, it sold for 5, you people don't know what you're doing. We call down to Irv or whoever we can get a hold of and have them either give us a building permit. If it was a gutted, complete remodel, we've been able sometimes to get a hold of the previous owner and they'll write us a letter saying we've remodeled. Again, there's a box that can say complete remodel. We called attorneys to say, I thought these people were related. Yeah, that was her granddaughter. That skews the sale. If that's not marked on there, with e-recording, they have to mark all this or it won't go through. So those are the kind of things, again, that are falsifying some of these sales, what's going on.
All this, what it does is for those who use it, is correct, make sure there's no defects before it's actually signed. If it's brought in as a paper, it has to be recorded at that point. If it's e-filed, then that kind of kicks it out until everything's,
Right, and then we would have the chance to review as well, yes.
So they can still do it the old way.
They still can,
Okay, so they got 2 options.
right.
Okay.
Most are choosing to do the digital amount. I mean, as you have younger ones especially, but June Ray's a big one. She wants to do everything digital at Dick James' office. They're very big on it. Karen Berkey-Biles come, Rob Anderson's come, Lori at Griffin. So a majority of them have participated. Craig kind of drags his feet a little bit. He likes his paper copy.
Just so they still have both options.
It's not an all or one, right?
Good, I'm fine with that. Are you fine with it?
Well, I think what we're gonna do is, like Jeff suggested the other day to me, we need to sit down and have a meeting about all that. It's not worthy of discussion in open right at the moment.
I think though the main thing is that it happen, if it's gonna happen, it needs to happen soon. If it's not gonna happen and somehow we're deciding not to do it, then we need to determine it now instead of waiting. So if you guys can get together like now and figure out what's gonna happen, we'd appreciate it.
Is the cost so much that it would be a problem on the current budget? Software cost?
No, I don't
Anything?
think so much. I don't think so much,
So that wouldn't be a reason to
no.
postpone?
And this is something like what would happen with Augie.
We just need to know what you're gonna do, and if we're gonna do it, we need to determine it and not let it slide.
Right. The cost is on him, the training's on him. We already have instructions, if they have it, here's how you reject a deed, so we have that part of it. It would just, it's a burden on Augie.
How much of a burden? You don't know yet?
I don't wanna get into it just yet.
Okay.
I know that from our standpoint, we have talked to a number of local people that are title companies, banks, attorneys. What we've been told is most of those people would rather come in and hand us the paper document. Now, if there's a discrepancy, which it sure sounds like there is,
We
then,
were told that by one person though that has talked to him, right?
okay. So we'll get together soon and we'll
Okay.
visit about it,
All right,
okay?
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Done with me?
Well, unless somebody has something else.
All
Yeah.
right.
I have a question, but it has nothing to do with that.
Oh,
Okay, what is
Can I
it?
ask her a question?
Oh, yeah.
I've been digging holes in the yard, and they're coming back and put more holes in the yard.
Putting
Yeah.
cats in them or?
Well, I don't know about that. Somebody said that they have easement from the middle street into your yard. How far easement do they have?
well, it just depends on the width of your street. A lot of
This
streets
is
are
Fourth
60 feet.
Yeah.
So from the middle
So
of
they
the
had no
street.
say-so on putting holes in your yard and
Probably
not filling them
not.
up correctly, and it looks like crap.
Right.
and-
A lot of those easements are right up to the sidewalk or not including, if not including the sidewalk, so yeah.
I don't understand why they're coming back today and putting another set of holes next to the one.
They're on
they
your
just-
street.
Pardon?
They're on your street.
Yeah, yeah. But this is the
I've been
second
down
set of
there.
holes up.
Yeah,
May
yeah,
not-
they're
may not be
digging
the same
today.
company.
Pardon?
There's multiple companies wanting to run
I
stuff,
just
so
got
it may
the
not be
pink
the same
flamingo
company.
2 weeks ago. My yard looked great, now it looks like crap.
Yeah.
So I took my flamingo away from it.
Yeah, they were digging
No,
today.
I
I went
just
down there.
wondered that. So I had no say-so, basically.
Not
That's
really.
out there
There's
for
an
down or
easement.
something, or?
Yeah, the right of ways are much farther than
I
just the
didn't
width of the
realize that. I
street.
didn't realize that. So that answers my question. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep, very welcome.
Thanks.
Anytime. Thank you.
What's that?
You have a couple of minutes still.
Got some more minutes. Dan, do you wanna cover?
Yeah, I stopped out the shelter last week and Andrew had just returned from taking, I think, 6 or 8 dogs to get them fixed. She has no help now. Tony resigned because of medical issues, and the young lady was working part-time, teaches at St. Mary's of the Woods, so she went back there. So Andrew has no help except there's one volunteer that she helps some, like walking dogs and so forth, but she put an ad in Facebook. She got 2 responses. Both of them are under the age of 18, which I said, I don't know, but because of liability, if you can hire somebody under the age of 18, and she didn't want to do it, so, which I can't blame her. I don't know how dependable they would be, you know, somebody 16, 17 years old, so. So I told her maybe try putting something in grocery stores. You've seen those, we have a note, and they have phone numbers across the bottom. She might said, you might try that. I think she did have an ad in the paper also about trying to get some help, but something has to be done. She cannot do it by herself. I mean, there's just no way. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell her. I know she's working a lot of extra. She's only, she's on salary. She's only scheduled, what, 30, 35 hours a week, but I know she's working a lot more than that and not being compensated for it. I don't know what to do. Anybody have any suggestions?
I shared the
One of these
Facebook.
days, she's gonna just say, heck with it, I can't do this. And then you have nobody out there.
Does she have a Facebook page?
Yeah, she puts on Facebook.
I
She
assume
puts animals on Facebook also.
Has she got, help needed, help wanted?
Oh, yeah, she got 2 responses,
Oh, okay.
Both for
On her-
teenagers.
Through her Facebook?
yeah, for her Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
County website, I don't know
I
what,
don't know about that. I don't know, other ways of getting the news out that she needs help, but, that's not that's a tough job, you know what, Linda.
oh, yeah. Yeah. She
One
needs to
of
get a
these
hold of Ross and put it on the county website,
Yeah.
you never know, the more you put out,
That's what I told her.
I suggested maybe we, up the pay just a little bit.
That's what I was thinking too.
Because I think it was like 14 or 15
It's
bucks.
14 something right now
Yeah,
for
maybe.
part-time help. But to do that, then you probably should up Andrew's pay a little bit too, somehow. Well,
yeah,
That's,
right.
if it, she's gonna recommend her budget, that's what,
Yeah.
if she brought your budget to your committee should meet,
okay,
even though it's not maybe time.
no,
You guys need to get together with her
right,
and figure out a plan,
right.
and if you need to up what you're paying, then you need to consider that.
Well, if she's by herself one of these days, she's gonna say, heck with this, and then we're not gonna have a shelter. That's a lot of work. The lady, a part-time lady does come in on Saturday and do some of her computer work, but she teaches 5 days a week at St. Mary's of the Woods, so. I don't know. Now we'll have a meeting one of these days and see what we can come up with. Gotta have something.
I agree.
I wonder, could you
There's
go,
40 dogs in the shelter, yeah, 40.
some of these temporary services, maybe contact them, maybe they make them aware of it, they might have somebody that might be interested and not aware
Yeah.
that, we're needing help.
Right, right.
I'd suggest that. How many,
Okay.
isn't there several temporary
Yeah, I
services
think there
here
are.
in
There's a
town?
job, yeah,
I
I
mentioned
don't know
that.
what it's called, but
There are, I know.
And you might get a hold of her today and have her contact them and make them aware of it.
Staff Quicks
I
one.
will.
Steph,
Is it Staff Quick one of them in town?
I
I
don't,
used to be like
Also-
Manpower stuff, but they closed their office.
I don't.
No, that might be co-op at the high school, but still you got teenage kids working,
excuse me a second.
so I don't know.
Just go grab the phone, we'll be here in a
So
second.
I'll contact her today and see, give her some ideas maybe and see, come up with something else.
Yeah.
She mentioned maybe getting Linda to come back a little bit, but Linda spends a lot of time with the
Yeah,
dog,
she's
right?
been to
Yeah,
Louisiana
right.
last week.
That's what Andrew was saying, but I think she's gonna maybe call her and see if she can help her a little bit anyway, so. She needs some help, 40 animals in the shelter. I don't know. Feel sorry for her.
I've just shared it 3 different times. Including, to Beth Hansel to see if she knows of any 18-year-olds.
Still has 5 huskies left, so. That one lady called her from Georgetown. The lady had adopted a husky, and the husky got loose in Georgetown. She wanted Andrew to come up there and try to help her find the dog in Georgetown. Yeah.
Did you have anything, Russ?
I don't.
We'll wait till Jeff gets back in here. What time is this conference?
10
call?
o'clock.
What time is it now?
55, it says on the phone. 55. Do like the unemployment places still make you go in and apply stuff? Some of those places used to do it, still trying to find. It's been a long time since I had to mess with any of that. It's been quite a few years.
Yeah.
Used to go in and they'd suggest different jobs that were available out there and stuff to you. But that's part of the employment process.
I would think a lot of these temporary services places would
Might
have
have,
people.
But I don't know, yeah, but I'm not sure what you'll have to pay to go through them though, because they're gonna want costs on top of that usually.
That's why you guys need to get together and
Yeah, we'll
see.
see what we come up with.
Can we go ahead and, pretty close, just go ahead and call her?
Amy should be here directly. Thought Phil would be here by now.
So this works. Oh, I forgot to know.
Do they ever get like, the court order people to do public service? Anything, have they ever had any of those?
We get some out there to walk the dogs, but
They're not good
no, not getting.
workers.
This works.
No. She's had a few, but usually don't work out very well.
Okay.
She does have a
Word
couple
coverage, you
volunteers.
must dial 01 or 0.
Yeah, shut up. Okay, fine. Alright.
Old landlines.
That's not your landline, but the new phone doesn't dial the 9 or 1 anymore, so this is still the old phone. Should still work though.
Good morning, this is Delina.
Hey Delia, this is Josh with Edgar County. I'm here with the board.
Hello?
Sorry. Hey Delia, this is Josh with Edgar County. I'm here with the county board for the meeting this morning.
Hi,
Good
Melina.
morning, Josh. Good morning.
Morning.
I had asked Delina, who's with Baird and Company, to explain the process that we're gonna be going through if the bond ordinance is passed on Wednesday, so everybody was on the same page. Unlike the last time that we floated the 10 million, we already had a buyer for those bonds. So that was, what would you say, less complicated, Delina, but still, we're gonna go through a sale of the bonds this time. So, Delina, if you could, kind of give us a brief synopsis?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. As Jeff indicated, the plan is to bring a parameters ordinance to the county board on Wednesday. And this is a very similar process to what took place last year. The parameters ordinance is essentially the same format, and the purpose of it is we lay out specific parameters that have to be met in order for the county to, the designated official to authorize the sale at a future date. And within that parameters ordinance, we've established a not to exceed par amount of $8 million. So that's the balance that was initially authorized last year through a binding hearing and a petition period. You issued 10 million of the 18 million authorized, so we're looking at financing the balance. We've also established a final term of 2056. This gives us a little flexibility should the market move on us between now and pricing. If we need to extend the amortization to stay within the other parameters, we could. We've also laid out a max annual debt service constraint of $1,105,000. That's well within the county's public safety sales tax revenue stream. It's the most recent fiscal year, you generated $1,445,000 in revenues. And in talking with the chairman, we want to constrain that annual debt service to make sure that this debt service is affordable going forward. So you'd be looking at potentially, and I know this is a growing revenue stream for the county, but that could result in an extra $340,000 of public safety sales taxes to be used for other purposes, public safety purposes. This parameters ordinance, upon adoption, gives you essentially a 6-month window to issue the debt. So it would expire March of 2024. So in my conversations with the chairman, if for some reason there is a lot of volatility in the market, you don't like the interest rate levels leading into a pricing, we can pause and re-enter the market when we see an opportune window between now and March of 2024. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the parameters ordinance. We refreshed the structuring numbers as of market conditions end of business last Thursday. And we're estimating a potential true interest cost for a 30-year amortization of 4.93%, and meeting all of those parameters I just discussed. So from here on out, the next steps would be upon adopting a parameters ordinance on Wednesday, that would trigger Baird to send documents off to Standard & Poor's to request a credit rating from them. And we would host a conference call with that credit analyst. My guess is probably the week of September 25th. And then once we receive that credit rating, we'd be able to finalize a bond offering document, which we would then distribute to Baird's sales team and potential investors. And we usually like to have that for at least a week before we price. So we'd be tracking up pricing likely the week of October 9th, and then deliver the bonds 2 to 3 weeks later, and that's when the county would receive proceeds. A couple things that I know the chairman asked that I communicated to the group is, there's the county, once we have a conference call with S&P, the county will incur a rating fee regardless if it proceeds with the bond issue. And based on their fee schedule, that totals $17,500. And the county can always, this parameters ordinance is non-binding. Again, if the market conditions move away from the county and you choose to pause or pull this deal, you owe nothing to Baird, you owe nothing to the attorneys. The way our fee agreements are written, we're only paid upon a successful closing. So there's no fee obligation other than the S&P ratings fee, assuming we go through the ratings process. I will pause and open for questions, and Chairman, if I missed something, please let me know and I can expand further.
What happens if we all this goes through and we have the 8 million in bonds, and 6 months from now, when it goes out to bids, that it comes in higher than what we can afford, and we decide to not move forward with this project, then what happens if we're not gonna need the 8 million? What happens?
Well, these bonds would be structured with a standard 10-year par call. The 10 million that was issued last year through Prospect Bank has an immediate call feature. So I believe if your question is if the bids come in lower than what you're bonding for, we would have the ability to use excess bond proceeds from last year's issuance to redeem a portion of that. It'd be a little more difficult on this 8 million piece, given that we're structuring these bonds based on industry standard, what investors are anticipating. We could explore a shorter optional redemption feature outside of the norm, but that will be more costly in terms of interest rate. An investor may demand a slightly higher interest rate for a shorter call feature. And I know that that was one of the great appeals going through Prospect Bank last year, because they were willing to offer that immediate call feature.
So what you're saying, Delina, is that if, for example, we've got a 17.5 cost of the project, of which the 18 million is going for, the 10 and the 8, and it winds up being 19.5, and we shelve the project indefinitely, we can't pay off those bonds. We can't return the money.
We would be using all of the proceeds.
We wouldn't be
There
using
would
any
be
of it.
additional.
We wouldn't be using any of it.
If you're not using any of the proceeds,
Yes.
well, you would definitely be able to pay off the 2021 bonds.
Yes.
It's not to say you couldn't pay off, the proposed bonds, but what has to happen is you have to set up an escrow. It's a little bit more costly, because you'd be escrowing it to maturity and the call date, just given that they're not immediately callable.
Okay, so we'd set up an account which would cost us money, and then the bonds would be paid out of the 8 million that was sitting in the escrow account?
Correct.
So we would still be paying, we'd still have to pay 10 years worth of interest then, correct?
Correct, and well, we're in a unique market environment where if you are in fact setting up an escrow, you know, you would secure that escrow with investments and you'd be able to net fund. So you wouldn't necessarily be setting aside the full principal and interest over the next 10 years. You would be able, it would be a lower amount, just dependent on what the investment earnings are within that escrow. But it wouldn't be, it would still be at some cost to the county. I just don't have those figures in front of me.
Well, we don't mean to think negatively, but, you know, with the everything has been volatile the last couple of years. We do have a cost estimate at 17.2, so that's why we're going for the 18, but that doesn't mean that it can't go higher. So that's why Carl asked the question.
Right. You know, I think if it reaches that point, well, the other thing to consider is, and Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've been investing the proceeds from last year's issuance.
Correct.
So there should be some investment earnings that could also go towards the project. And then the same could apply, you know, assuming these bonds are issued in October of this year, and you're likely not to draw upon those bond proceeds for another 6 months or so. You know, you could be earning some investment earnings on these proceeds as well to help contribute towards your overall balance, or, you know, your financing costs.
So I guess if for some reason we don't, you know, we reject the bids and we don't go forward with this project, we're gonna be stuck with that 17,500 fee plus 10 years of interest on the $8 million. If we don't, I mean, that's all, we can't get out of it without those costs.
It won't be a full interest because you will get some interest off your 8 million over that period as well. You can still draw interest, so it's not a full 4% or whatever,
Okay.
because you can still, just like you
Invest
are, invest
that.
that, even in the escrow, it's gonna grow. It may not grow for the full
Right.
amount, but it's gonna grow for a lot of it.
Okay, all right.
I guess it's, do you feel lucky?
Yeah.
It's really not that funny to me, but we just need to explore all the possibilities. That's why I wanted
Right.
this conversation to happen
Yeah.
before, you know, we get down the road and everyone goes, why didn't you tell us that, you know? So,
So,
If it's at all helpful, I could certainly run that analysis to quantify how much it might be cost-wise to the county. You know, let's say you issue bonds now, and 3 months from now, the project is essentially canceled. I could back into, you know, how much it would cost to fully pay off this $8 million, just so you have that estimate in your mind going into Wednesday, if that's at all helpful.
for example, just to tell you about the 10 million, we've been able to pay about $300 and some thousand plus worth of bills with it. We started after fees with $740,000. We paid a bunch of bills towards the project, and we still have $1,032,000 in the account without, well, the last 30 days worth of interest. So it's actually grown, and we've paid quite a few bills out of it, so. Okay.
And I think the other thing that the Chapman and Cutler has done within the parameters ordinance is give a little wiggle room on the use of proceeds for other public safety purposes. So if, you know, let's say bids come in lower and you're sitting on some excess proceeds, as long as it fits within the project description, which again I think is somewhat broad, you could use those proceeds for other projects.
Like the elevator.
Or, if you don't want to contribute that towards other projects, we could redeem a portion of the 2021 bond. I'm just thinking the opposite, if your bids come in lower.
I like that positive attitude, because the energy is good. Andy's joined us. I know you've missed probably 95% of this. Carl, excuse me a second, Carl asked the question, what happens, we do the 8 million, we've got 18 million in the bank, we get the bids in and they're out of, and we're gonna cancel the project. Well, we cannot return the 8 million for 10 years, please correct me. But we can set up an account and do escrow and pay those bonds back out of that. She's gonna run a report and get us an idea about that. Plus, the other way to look at it is, for the next 6 months to a year, we're gonna be generating interest on $8 million. And that may be enough to,
Offset it.
yes, a minor increase, okay? So, is that, did I synopsize that okay?
You did.
All right.
Does the 8 million have spending thresholds like the 10 million did?
It does,
Yeah,
it does,
you
and,
can't arbitrage with any bond money.
Yeah, but it will have, so be in two separate accounts, so you can track the different spending thresholds?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you'll have them separate. Okay.
Yes, we'd have it separate.
So you pay some bills out of one, some bills out of the other, back and forth.
Basically, probably start with the other one, wouldn't you, since you pretty much the other thresholds?
Yeah, we'd probably start with the 8 million.
Until you meet those thresholds and then swap back.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Russ? Okay. Dan?
Oh,
Gary, do you have anything you want to ask? Well, we have the news meeting here. He asks some pretty good questions sometimes, so
not today.
it was a long weekend, I guess. Augie, do you have anything you want to,
No, I don't, thank you. No?
Lisa?
No, thanks.
Just one of the guys here.
yeah,
Go
all the
on,
white
guys.
men.
Go white men.
Can you have that report to us by Wednesday morning, or is that asking too much, Delina?
no, I'll try and get it to you by tomorrow.
All right,
That way you have some time to digest, and if you have any questions prior to Wednesday's meeting, we can certainly have a chat.
great. We appreciate your time and all the past efforts that you've done, and so thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You too.
Delina.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Just, what's the 10 million rate, 3 something?
4.4,
Oh, it's,
4.356, somewhere
okay.
just short of 4.5%. And she has, what I knew there was something, she's been figuring high on all this stuff.
That's the 10 million?
Now, yeah, that's the 10 million. The 8 million is what she gave you, but she's figuring high
Yeah,
and very conservative. Hopefully they'll come in at a better rate than that,
right.
okay? Go ahead.
No, I thought, so they were, the 10 million was at 4 something too, huh?
Yeah, the 10 million was at 4.365,
And they're thinking this 8
4.465.
million would be about what then?
It'd be right around 4.9.
So not a whole lot more then?
No, and if we'd gone for the 15, which the bank offered us, that was 4.85 or something like that.
And you still
So
have
we're-
3 million more anyway, so I'm sorry.
So, did I hear that correctly? The reason it has to go to Standard & Poor for the rating is because it's different than the last one that we did when we already
Correct. We already had
had
it sold. In investors, say you're out there looking for municipal bonds to buy,
So you wanna make sure how it's rated.
yeah, you're gonna say, this is the rating of it, this is what's backing them, the whole 10 yards. Okay?
Is there going to be another instance or opportunity in which having the bond rating is to our advantage? Or will this be the only time? I mean, it'd be great if this was a $17,000 investment and we could just brag to everybody and they would care.
I was assuming you would have to be re-rated every time because you'll have different funding
You would
mechanisms,
have
different
to.
financial stability.
But-
I mean, you could say last time we had it
Yeah.
at this, so you
But
could
you're
probably.
saying, is there an advantage to doing this?
Right, other than this one time. I mean, we want Gary to put it in the paper that we're so fiscally responsible, even though you're a bunch of old white men, that we're AAA plus, right?
Well, it will get better as you pay.
Right.
And that's basically how it works, right? Right.
It's just like looking up
Yeah.
your credit online.
It'd just be nice if we could.
And I would assume that if we did borrow the 8 and we got 18 out there, that our credit rating would be affected a little bit, or it certainly wouldn't go up, but.
Right, it'll go down a little at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we've maxed out for the time being.
on the, if for some reason the same scenario that I brought up, that we don't bid, it doesn't go forward, the 10 million deal, it's a little different and we can pay it back.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. In fact, if the rates dropped to in the
We can-
threes, we could refinance the whole
Right.
thing anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one you have to wait 10 years,
Yeah.
then we could refinance it. I mean, if the rate, not only
Yeah.
can't we pay it before 10 years, but then we can, from there on out, we can pay it off or we can refinance it.
What, what is the, I mean, it's they're 10-year bonds, then is what you're saying?
No, they're 30
They're
years,
30-year bonds,
Yeah.
but you can renegotiate at 10 years.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
You have to keep them a minimum of 10 years.
Yes, before you can, the investors like that because they have an income stream for 10 years
Okay.
guaranteed. Anything else on this subject? Carl, did you wanna, I'm sorry, Russ, do you have anything?
I don't.
Carl, do we wanna go into closed session eventually to talk about the
Yes.
negotiations?
Right.
But we'll skip over that.
Yeah. The CO2
Right.
wells over in Vigo and Remain County, the Wabash Valley Resource Company is doing that project, or trying to do that project, but anyway, Lisa's been to a couple meetings. I went to the one meeting over in Negocian, and then last week, one day, we met with Wabash. We met with Wabash Valley, with the city officials. Jeff and I were there, and there was 4 or 5 people from the city there, representing the city. And we met with a couple of the head people with Wabash Valley. And it was a very good meeting, very, very good meeting, I thought. Got a lot of good information. The main concern for, obviously, for Paris is the water supply coming from the Wabash aquifer. I did find out at the meeting that I went to that actually the injection wells from that process is about 2 miles from the state line. One of them is just east of Sanford, and the other one is north of Shirkyville. I think everybody knows where those places are, obviously. The actual pipeline at some point will probably be even closer to Illinois. I don't know exactly, because they don't know for sure where it's going to be, but it's based on what he's telling us, it's going to be even closer to Illinois. But they haven't got that finalized. But you know, I felt pretty good after the meetings. I had several concerns. One, the water, and I feel confident that when they inject that in there, that it will not affect the water supply, you know, based on what I've heard. You know, the water aquifer is less than 500 feet, it's like 100 or 200 feet below the surface, and what they're injecting is like 45, almost a mile. And there's solid, I don't know what you call it, limestone in between. So, but anyway, another big concern I had was for the emergency responders. I know they said at the meeting, and they're gonna do training to all like volunteer fire departments, emergency responders and everything. But I explained to him the other day at the meeting that, you know, being housed so close to Illinois, potentially, you know, if something, disaster would happen, Indiana people are gonna call for Illinois people to come and help. And I feel like our emergency responders need the same training as all their people. and they assured us that they would do that. Emergency response plans, we'd be a part of that and all that stuff, so after the meeting, I felt good about that, and I've talked to a couple of our emergency responders, and they want to get information.
My concern was the pipe or the actual well itself.
Right.
In other words, even if everything's protected down low, what happens if the pipe fails?
That's my
Okay.
concern too.
The pipe is yay big, then it's lined with concrete, then there's a sleeve in that, and there's liquid and it's pressurized. And then the gas goes down in another pipe inside of all of this. And there's regulation and sensor to protect or tell them what's going on throughout the pipe. Did I more or less? That's a really simplified version.
Right.
Because they had the technician there, or a technical guy.
So let's say if a pipe did rupture for some reason, does it have shut-offs?
Yeah.
They have shut-offs, so it wouldn't just sit there and blow like a gas line.
Right. They monitor it 24/7, and they said if something would happen like that, they would immediately know because of the pressure droppage
Right.
and all that, and the things would get shut down immediately.
And what it would do, it would leak into the pressurized area more than it would leak into out into the environment. They also talked about the pressure that the system had at the very bottom would cause it not to, after a certain period of time, would be, what did they say, there would be an even pressure.
Yeah.
They went into a lot of technical things that I'm sure under something I asked about earthquakes and
Right.
all the other things that could, because I assume that's still in the New Madras fault.
Mhm.
So,
Close enough too.
right, close enough that the monitoring system would give us ample warning and so forth. The EPA is that close to giving them the permit. So, that's what
Yeah.
we had 3 different concerns. Mine was the pipe.
Yeah, right. And they said that the ideal ground structure for this project is an area in this area, clear up to Peoria, it runs up to Peoria. That's the best area for doing this anywhere around. And I know one of the city guys asked ADM up at Decatur, they're doing this same thing. I don't know what they're making, but they're putting CO2 in the ground.
Okay.
And he said it's the same thing that we're planning on doing. He said there isn't that many projects going on now. They're one of the few that's to this point, but there's been like a couple, I thought he said a couple hundred, maybe that's not accurate, permits that other companies are in the works of trying to develop and everything.
In that same reservoir?
No.
No,
Well,
just
just
across the United States?
Yeah.
Okay.
the CO2, it's a push that the federal government's doing, they're giving incentives. That's why they're able to do this, they're getting, he didn't give a figure, but,
$85 a ton.
pardon,
$85 a ton of CO2 sequestered.
yeah, federal money.
Then there's a side production of,
Right. They're making ammonia. That's what this is gonna be, they're taking the natural gas and gonna produce ammonia, and then they're gonna sell ammonia. And, obviously ammonia, I don't know what all uses, but,
And
agriculture is the
Right,
biggest,
the
biggest user of it. And, they said there's just, a lot of it comes from overseas that are.
Russia.
And, it comes into New York, Louisiana, and then it's piped up here, and they can do it a whole lot cheaper. And it could be, an advantage for farmers, on costs and everything, possibly, we'll see. I mean, they're not gonna sell it, if they can make it for $100, they're not gonna sell it for 100 when the market's 1,400.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
might pull the market down.
Right.
They figured in this area, they could produce enough to supply 50% of the market here. In this, not it, but in this area.
Yeah. So,
Comments, Lisa, questions?
and then there's another meeting this Wednesday at 5:30 Illinois time over at South Vermillion High School, if anybody's interested in going.
Basically the same meeting you were at, it's just another
Informational
informational.
meeting, yeah. But I know the first meeting that Lisa went to, it was pretty wild. The second meeting was, you know, it was a good meeting, everybody was civil.
I think one of the other things, they were shocked at some, considering what they're doing, they were shocked at what they'd seen and a little disappointed in what they'd seen from the population around here.
That's all I had.
I assume they'll probably end up in court once they make their ruling. Like everything else, you probably can't sue until the EPA rules, and then somebody will probably try suing them.
Just to share, this is the flyer that group is doing. The first meeting was pretty volatile because one of the main investors out of New York City was just pretty doggone rude and arrogant, and now they've put him in the basement, and I don't think you'll ever see him again at a public meeting, which was why it got pretty crazy. So this is the flyer that they are handing out. I've been to several of their meetings, and there are a couple of websites I haven't had a chance to look at that are actually from Illinois' coalitions concerning this. And one of them has ordinance examples as well, so I haven't read those. There are groups coming down on the Indiana side, those counties coming down from Chicago, basically, the ones running on 63, so Benton, Warren, some of those counties, that are, they would be pipelines without wells at this point. So they are also considering what they feel is the health and safety for their citizens. My role has been waiting to find out what you all think, and until then, I'm gonna keep being involved, but that is my role on there, that and no more. One thing that, did you guys talk about plumes?
A little bit. You mean the plume that's in the ground?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because my question had been, when they talk about a well, and I'm trying to conceive what a well looks like in this situation, it's, you know, and I said, explain to me, it's not like there's a pocket of air down there that's dying to be filled. And so what are you displacing? Well, they said it was kind of a briny, a salty, watery solution. And so when it goes down, then it displaces that briny water. It mixes with it and then it continues to push it out. And their models, they're only projecting for 12 years. And somebody says, so at the end of 12 years, are you done? And they said, no, but we haven't modeled it out. So how do you know when you're done? How do you know when your well is full? And they said when it takes more pressure to push it out than what is practical or capable.
Where's it going?
It's filling whatever voids down
It's
there.
going, it's going wherever the weakest spot is that it can continue to push out. So you don't know what you don't know where it's going. You know, you can do a model, but you don't really know. So how do you monitor? Well, they have to do wells to monitor. I didn't really get a good answer, I didn't think, on how far out those wells would be. So, thinking economically, Carl could be sitting with CO2 under his ground and not get any reimbursement for it. And not know it's there. Is that an issue? I don't know, is it right?
No, it's 5,000 feet down. By the way, they can only renew their permit once every 10 years.
Right,
The permit's for 10 years.
yeah.
It's not for 12.
But I'm just saying their model was for 12 years. Now, I don't know why that arbitrary number or whether,
They
why.
didn't talk to 12 years to us. but I-
Where are they making this now? I said Russia, but is it Russia? Where are they?
Hydrogen or anhydrous?
Yes, where are they making it?
Yeah, and that's why,
Well-
in the beginning, they were saying that, that's why this started with Trump, was when Trump was saying, let's bring back production to the United States. So that's where this concept and this money got started.
So what's going on
Anhydrous
there?
is being made in Louisiana and Texas.
It's being made there?
Made
Yeah,
there.
it's
All
being
right,
made there
then what are
too.
they, okay, what are they doing? I mean, how successful, I guess look at where the stuff's being presently made, how successful are they at handling this situation? I mean, there's a metric for it right there to look and see, right?
Well,
They
maybe
haven't-
anhydrous doesn't produce CO2.
They haven't necessarily been trying to sequester it.
Okay. Well,
That's just something new. Before, it just went up in the air.
Is that, they just let it go?
Yeah, yeah. So now with this clean energy and climate change and all that, they're wanting to put it down to keep it out of the atmosphere. And the government's paying them to do this, giving them an incentive.
So they've just been letting it out and
Yeah,
they keep blaming my car for that.
yeah.
Well, they're blaming cows for that.
Let's go to the source.
And so my other question was, because my loves are history and English, not science. So this was just beyond my knowledge. So what? So what if it's down there mixing with brine? And so that creates carbonic acid. I don't know anything about carbonic acid. Is carbonic acid, well, is it corrosive? I don't know. Does it have any, apparently it doesn't have any effect on bedrock? I don't know. I don't know these things. So that was kind of one of my questions for Wednesday's meeting.
They need to do a cost benefit. Is it doing more damage down 5,000 feet?
No, it is.
Or is it doing more damage when they release it to the atmosphere?
Yeah.
And my guess is, the only answer we got now is it's doing more damage to the atmosphere and giving us hot, well, strange weather, you know, rather hazardous weather and a lot of heat. I think the mentality everywhere is any place but right here. You know, you go,
Any place
yeah,
but my
somewhere here,
backyard.
do it somewhere else, just not here. We enjoy nuclear power, but take that radiation, the spent radiation rods to Nevada. We like the power, but and that's to that way all over the world.
The other thing that was of note, and this was why they put the Indian back in the basement, was, do not quote that.
What?
It's on camera.
Yeah, it's already on camera.
The reason they aren't letting him speak anymore is, and actually it wasn't him that said it was another man that's in their group. They said, well, why, and this was a good question, why aren't you just putting the wells right next to the power plant that they are using, which is the old Wabash Valley one?
Right.
Why don't you just put the wells there? Why are you piping it? Seems like a logical question, right? And they said it was public perception because they knew it would be a PR nightmare because people would assume that it was going to pollute the Wabash.
Did they have any geologists there? I mean, you got businessmen there, which I don't want to listen to a businessman
Right.
about this. I want a geologist.
They had somebody who was the best person at speaking and putting it on terms that everybody understood, but he is not a trained geologist. He would just say he worked with geologists. They also, a lot of their information came from the Illinois Geological Survey, which is a group is governmental and University of Illinois. So that's where they had gotten a lot of their data, and I think those folks had come over and done some of the work. But I think what really offended the local folks more than anything, and it has to do with the not in my backyard, was why didn't you just put the well where this is, instead of having pipes and even having any of this
Of
conversation?
course, the geologist might be able to answer that. Maybe
Right, I
the
want to know.
structure,
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
it's
when
good
his
science.
answer was it would be a PR
well,
nightmare,
that was a problem.
Yeah.
that just set the whole thing off. But they have not received a good answer for that, and there has been time.
Yeah, I think
So-
that needs, I mean, I want to know from, I would want to know, I do want to know from somebody who knows formation and what the reality of what you're doing
Right,
is
because
doing.
if it's 5,000 feet down, we know the Wabash isn't that far down.
Right.
So why? And they asked the same question again, and it's not been answered.
And I'm trying to be delicate. This board has no position on that.
So if you
And
want
we
me to.
don't go out and represent ourselves
Right.
as being
Yeah,
part of
so
the board.
I can
As a
just
citizen.
continue going, because as a citizen, I don't really have a lot in this game. So if you're telling me you're confident with the information you've received and the impact for our county, then I can discontinue.
I don't think we can say that. can
Not
we?
yet, no.
But we just don't wanna be identified as pro or con at
Right.
these meetings. Okay, we're just collecting facts.
At this point, I'm indifferent.
And, you know, technically, I mean, we don't wanna be passing out materials and so forth that are either pro or con.
I'm not distributing
I'm
this.
just,
Yeah,
I agree.
this is
But-
just the information, so.
but we need as much information.
Right. You know,
Because we
right
may be
now,
asked,
yeah, it's not in Edgewood County, but it could be one of these
Right.
days. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's a pipeline coming from South Dakota, you know, over by Springfield. You know, and Sangamon County took a stance that no pipeline, you know, they put a moratorium
put a
on it or something.
moratorium,
Is that a
yes.
But-
CO2 pipeline? Is that
Yeah.
a CO2 pipeline?
Right.
Okay.
So one of these days, it might be in Edgewood
Right.
County, you know.
When
You know, they said they're not crossing this, they didn't wanna cross the state line, I think they maybe considered it, but they didn't wanna cross, cause that would be all kinds of other troubles they
I
had.
don't, the one thing I
Try to
see
do that
now, they
touch
can
code,
say
too.
where the storage stuff's gonna go, how they can
Well,
improve.
I mean,
these
at that
coming
meeting
in
that we
county.
were there, they had a big map and it showed none of it showed coming into Illinois, but how do you know for
They
sure?
don't,
Right,
they
well,
don't know where all the voids are at.
They say
now.
it's CO2, that's a gas.
So it could be a
That's
liquid.
kind of like the peeing section of a swimming pool.
Actually,
It's a liquid.
they say it's not going to be a gas, it's going to be,
Yeah, liquid.
they're gonna
Liquid.
pressurize it to a liquid.
Right.
But if you have a rupture or if it gets out, then that turns into a gas, correct?
Yeah, but it's gonna be a liquid that's going down, from what I
Liquid that's going
understand.
down.
Yes, that's what I've,
And they pipe it as liquid, I believe, as well.
Right. But I brought up, you know, years ago, we had the VX over there, and, you know, there was, since we were a boarding county, you know, we got a lot of funding and training and all that. And, you know, there was different exercises where if it escaped, you know, it could be airborne and potentially come this way. But they said that the CO2 is not, it's not, the VX could move
it was a mover.
easier, but this stuff doesn't move too much from what they said, but you never know if a disaster would ever happen. But we just need to gather more information
Right.
Yeah.
to get as
I
much
agree.
as possible. But
All right.
I mean, my concerns are as an individual, not as a board member, actually.
Well, and I've kept mine to the questions I thought had to do with water questions, water quality,
right,
and in the plume.
And safety.
Yeah.
training to, like Carl brought up.
Yeah. And they had addressed training, but, you know, at that time, that was, they had addressed, they knew they had to deal with it. But they hadn't gone into any details, because that's not where that audience was headed at the moment. But, okay.
I did think of one question. I asked about valves. And for example, if down 5,000 feet, if this got severed, is there a valve there to keep, you can pump it in, but it can't go back up? And they said the pressure, there's no pressure to force it back up. That it's static, it's even pressure down there, and it wouldn't, in other words, it wouldn't come back up because of the pressure. Isn't that right, Carl? Yeah. In other words, our main problem would be in the shaft.
So there's pressure, so there's a lot of pressure to push it down, to push it out.
But
Down
then it
there.
equalizes down there.
And then it equalizes, so there's not much going back up.
That's what I'm trying, I asked that question, I just remembered that.
What do you call that valve?
Well, it's like you have them in your veins, they're little check valves that, you know, your blood can flow one way, but it can't flow the other.
Right.
It's like your septic valve,
Yeah.
You're comparing me to a septic valve?
your analogy.
There might be some truth in that.
Hard to believe anybody anymore. You know, I don't know what's right, like you're saying, but I find it hard to believe anybody when they're making money off of something or whatever. I could be completely honest, don't trust people.
Did you have a good meeting there?
Yeah, it's wonderful, they talk too long.
Oh, yeah,
Did they raise the budget?
No, exactly the same as last year.
That's what I thought. I
Like
thought you
this
said,
penny.
yeah.
But most things I pick up are what's going on in education, that sort of stuff. The other stuff wouldn't interest anybody, but that interests me.
Yeah.
And I think they do a pretty darn good job just spending our money.
Are they helping, coming up with plans for bus drivers and some?
That's, I brought that up today, of course, I have a personal interest in it. They've not had much connection with that. It was kind of been put on the back burner. They're having problems with subs and teachers, getting enough and keeping them.
Everybody.
Not gonna tell them, and then if the federal government or the state government's gonna increase or the difficulty of the bus test, you're really not gonna have anybody, cause it's difficult, the written part of it is difficult enough as it is. I don't know how they're. So, he didn't have an answer to that.
Okay. Carl, did you have anything else? Do you have anything else, Phil? Augie, did you have anything?
Nope.
Lisa?
I have Chamber of Commerce at noon tomorrow. Is there anything that you want me to tell or share regarding the courthouse, the status of the courthouse, the fence around the courthouse, trees around the courthouse, anything?
Going along great.
Well, we came from the south yesterday and I said, let's go check on my courthouse. It looks so good from the south.
I've gotten numerous people.
Doesn't look any different to me.
That's
But
phenomenal.
I'm not, maybe I'm
That
not
copper's
looking
gonna
for it.
blind you once.
It will, once the sun hits it, you coming through just the right time, and it does too.
So everything's on track as far as when the fence will be down. There's
From my
no new news.
impression was they're doing a little bit better than what they anticipated.
But there is no meeting tomorrow now, they canceled
Okay,
that
good.
meeting.
Yeah, that was
Good.
kinda chance.
Okay, but go ahead.
No, that was just, didn't you get, I'm trying to think of where,
They still don't have a final thing on the, well, you could speak to that. Go ahead on the damage.
Yeah, they're still working on estimates and stuff for, the bell tower and the interior. They're still waiting on numbers back from the, metal supplier and stuff for the sheet metal and stuff on the outside. They're still trying to get some stuff for the woodwork. Michael did talk to the adjuster there in California to figure out how they wanted to word it. And it sounds like they would most likely pay for whatever we considered storm damage that they probably won't pick up much as anything else, so they're gonna break it apart a little bit separate. Some of the stuff overlaps. Like I said, I think we can get a crane, like we're still pushing for that crane, so you guys can, so we can use the crane for, this is the most logical for the roof, the fixing that, and then you mentioned something about trying to do those counterweights on the clocks as well, all at the same time. It sounds like they should pay for a good portion of attaching all that sheet metal back, because that was all wind related, it was a windstorm that they're worried about.
Right.
Now, some of the beams and stuff, some of the stuff in the interior of the tower and stuff probably won't work, other than maybe they can count a little bit, they need to fix some of that to have access to the rest. So I don't know what 100% of the coverage is gonna be.
And the stuff inside isn't extremely expensive stuff.
Well, some of the stuff in the towers might be a little bit, because they're gonna have to brace the stairs, get some of that stuff up there, so it's awkward, so I don't know exactly what the pricing's gonna be yet. They're still working on a little bit of that. Again, the meeting for tomorrow is canceled at 10 o'clock, so they're not having it tomorrow. There wasn't much to update, and there was something else, everybody else pretty much had something else tomorrow that it wasn't gonna work for most people anyways.
So you'll let us know when
Yeah, the next one will be just in 2 weeks. They're just gonna cancel this one, we'll have another 2 weeks, and they hope to have some numbers by then. They talked to them this morning. They're still waiting, they're still planning on having a electrical bid on the jail hopefully in November, is what their timeline, they're hoping to get some stuff from Michael here around early October, so they can go through it, get it prepped, and have some for the generator, all the stuff that they think have major lead times, that kind of stuff will hopefully go out sometime in November, and they're still planning on having the main bid, hopefully, major bid packet being reviewed and maybe bidding before the end of the year, to be able to have a bid opening in January. So, is what they're, and then by then you'll know whether or not, how it's coming on that, so hopefully around the first year, you'll have some good idea on the cost and timelines. Gonna meet with the internet, for Illinois Century Network, about what they're doing, what their needs on getting out of the old facility, relocating over here, their current needs. So we got to set that up with the architect and their designers to make sure everything's running.
You said that it all may not be complete by 25. Explain that.
He got back to me, they'll be able to have internet in the new facility when it opens, but it'll be at least January of 25 before they'd be able to get out of the old facility, which I don't think, I said that's not a problem, we're probably not even gonna be opening the new one until at least then. It'll take probably a good while before you have everything out, be ready to even do anything with the old building at the earliest, because they said there's just so much tied into the school district that they thought to get that relocated, but there would be no problem having the new facility have internet. They just won't be able to be out of the old facility until the minimum of the middle of 25. So I said it'd probably be July of 25 at the earliest, which is, I think we're hoping to have the new facility done by about July of 25. Whether that means you have people moved out, stuff moved out clean. I figured it'd be easily sometime in 26 before you're even probably considering doing anything with the old building at that point. Because it'll take a while, because you're going to move some stuff, then figure out what you can get rid of. So they seem perfectly happy with that. So we're still working on making sure they have all their connection to courthouse and stuff. My understanding is too, I don't know if they've talked to Augie or not, they're trying to do some internet with the Board of Elections or something too, to give you something, I think he mentioned. I didn't understand it all, but something to do with Board of Elections and internet to the courthouse for something there for elections or something. So I don't know if they've talked to him about it or not, but it's something that he's been working on there too, so. But other than that, I think everything's going. I was trying to get as many updates as I could from them, and there are too many people that are trying to get for the numbers on your storm damage between theirs and Kryling and
the airport numbers. We've got one back,
and it looked like pretty reasonable for what you got. I don't know why
they forgot something.
Yes, and so their bid is going to go up a little bit. Their estimate, yes.
Moving out of the current annex is still slated for sometime later this fall.
After tax bills and everything else. Yes. We currently have 3 individuals in there. IT is there, Jess is there, and then the Illinois Services, Court Services person is there. Okay?
The only thing I was asked too is, how's the stuff coming to the health department on their prepared? Are they doing what they do to get that stuff started? I don't hear much from over there,
I
so.
haven't either, have you heard
I
anything?
didn't know if anybody heard anything from them at all. Okay. I know they were gonna start doing some stuff, I thought soon, on the interior, right? But
They did not know, as of our last meeting, when that was going to happen, because they had not
It's
found
drywall
out
work,
from,
correct?
right, hadn't found out from Service Pro some of the details.
Okay. No, I was just, like I said, just trying to keep up with the insurance side.
Will the director be there tomorrow or Wednesday maybe? Monica,
I can certainly send her a text and suggest it.
and give us a report on it.
We also need to have their levy request in their budget. Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, no problem.
Did you have anything to, I know you're texting right now.
Beth Hansel has somebody who's turning 18 who's interested.
Okay, good. You have a name?
So I'll
You
just,
do, can you text
I'll
me?
just have her, I'll have her have him contact him.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I will finish this text to Monica, advising or asking if she can attend Wednesday's meeting and reminding her that the levy request and budget are due.
Andy, do you have other?
I just got one thing on, Rowdy called me and I went down and met with he, and actually Jerry Branson was down there. But they need to move, you know where that electrical comes into the Diamond Brothers? I guess CIPS is going to start, and they've had trouble with those lines down there quite a bit, to those two Irvin, anyway, and they actually, CIPS came in and buried lines to both those houses. And they said, I understood Rowdy to say that they're going to start initiating a charge if someone has, from where they provide energy to the building, they're gonna start, if you get storm damage, I think that they will help you bury that line, so it's an underground line. And then, so they're encouraging everybody to put their lines underground, so if you have a big storm, it doesn't knock everybody's electricity out, they're not out trying to put that, so they're gonna, I think, my understanding was they'll initiate a charge if they have to come fix your stuff and you didn't bury it. So Rowdy said, you need to take those lines off the corner of that building anyway. He goes, you get a wind and it sits there and pulls, and he goes, you get a storm and it pulls. That's part of what's caused that corner to fail. He said they need to bury those lines and come in underground rather than have it connected to the corner. So we need to have probably someone come in and look and see what I need to do a little.
Does our power come, is there some lines?
Yeah, it comes from a pole right there at the corner of Harold's lot and Kay Huff's, about halfway down her fence, that's where that pole is.
Okay.
And the day I was there, they brought a trencher in and they were trenching it into Harold's house and to Kay's house. And they said they want us to get rid of that line going from that pole over to ours.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Will they locate that, or does it become the landowner's problem at that point for whoever that is, if you ever have to do any digging? Because usually they won't locate on you.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the reason.
I don't know, that was never brought up.
I was just curious.
Right, that makes sense.
Because you, like for water, they'll usually do here, like it's your problem to figure out the rest of the way sometimes, so. But that, I can see.
I don't know, that's a question to ask them. But,
And we're gonna have to pay something on that, right?
yeah, we gotta switch the masts that are out there now. You'll have to bury them and come into the pipe underground.
We have to do that?
I think they'll pay, I don't know. I was talking to Rowdy and them, and so I'm not, he talked like CIPS pays to bring it over one time. You will have to pay to bring it into the building. But,
You might get a bid on that
I
from more than
will.
one people.
yeah. And what we discussed that day, I don't know that they need to go to the extent to do what, anyway. I need to look at it a little bit more. It's old equipment down there, but it works.
And it was built for grocery stores.
It
so
was,
it's
there's
probably
three
over-
phase in there, and we really don't,
No.
you ever gonna sell it? That was the question that was asked to me, and I'm like, I don't think so. Said, you don't really need three phase in there,
No.
but if you're gonna sell it, that's a real selling point to have three phase, so I don't know. I know.
Depends on what the cost. the
Right,
versus
the cost
the other.
difference will determine that probably. There's a lot of juice goes in that place, and way too much. Anyway, I'll see what I can find out when I get a little time.
Anything else?
No?
Budget is in the process of being put together, so is the levy, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. I don't have a lot else, I mean, we've covered a lot of things today. You might notice in your packet, the agenda items, are there any questions on any agenda items, please?
I guess the holidays, one thing, there's 14 holidays listed.
Yeah, because of election day, but then, I thought, Augie, I thought we, the judges said we're not gonna get election day off.
That's correct. Sullivan said that we're not going to be closed.
The courthouse is not.
The courthouse will not be closed, or they're not going to observe that. So it's a moot point.
Well,
Well, it is and it isn't.
yeah,
I
with the
mean-
union contract, it could
Right.
be an issue.
I don't think that was on theirs though, was it? It wasn't on theirs.
Well, of course,
There were 13, correct?
we're gonna have new contracts, so we could, I guess, address that.
Yes.
Because that'd be for next year, and that's what we're working on right now, so.
We'll just talk to you about that in a minute, let's see. Sign the bank. Baxter.
Here somewhere.
You've got a copy of an administrative assistant in there, which is Jessica in her job description. We still haven't heard anything, I don't think, on the liquor license for the folks down there at Castle Finn. Augie and I have both been trying to elicit some kind of response, because it has been, what, 3 or 4 months?
At least, yeah, a couple for sure.
So, we're trying to get something moving on that, so I've explained to the state's attorney that we're favor offering them a license, we just need it in front of us so we can do that, so.
Are they open in the winter time? Are they?
Yep, I kid college students down there. They're a little disappointed when there's not the right kind of booze, I know that.
You may not want to take them down if we.
I gotta take them home, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
As long as they don't throw up on the bus, I'm satisfied. Which I've done it twice,
Jeez.
not my bus though.
Do you wanna do a close now or close on Wednesday on the union deal?
Depends on,
Anybody got any place to be, or?
take, what,
do?
5 or 10 minutes?
Right, take 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll make it short.
Okay.
Motion to go into closed session. Andy moves. Russ seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We'll go into closed session as soon as our clerk is ready. Or something else.
Well, I had high school.
We're back in open session now. We've come out of the closed session. Is there any further business to come before the meeting today?
I can just share, Monica says that she plans on coming to county board meeting on Wednesday, and that you should have the budget, after we meet next Wednesday.
Okay. Is there any public comment? That's a heck of a time to ask. Hearing none, motion to adjourn. Russ moves, Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We're adjourned. We'll see you on